This is the 3 Arts Workshop, week 7, and this week we are climbing up the third and last step of the mountain of argument mapping. And what a glorious vista it will be from the top, mapping arguments in real prose. Sometimes, when we're diagramming short passages of real prose, it's just really like the material we encountered in the last 2 weeks. We have a short bit, and we underline the propositions, and then figure out how the propositions relate, as in this example. He towers above his fellows because he stands on a pile of books. Ambrose Bierce on George Washington. I underline the first proposition, I underline the second proposition, and I figure out quickly that proposition 2 is actually a premise supporting the first proposition, the conclusion. Sometimes, though, we have longer passages, and we find that in prose we don't have the argument coming to us as such a tight unit, the kind of tightness that we found in our problems for the last 2 weeks' lessons. The skill that we want to learn in this lesson is the skill of omission. How do we omit everything but the essential argument? My goal in this passage is to read through and find out what the core argument really is, and only underline those essential parts. So let's read the passage from Theodore Roosevelt. When the time of danger comes, all Americans, whatever their social standing, whatever their creed, whatever the training they have received, no matter from what section of the country they have come, stand together as men, as Americans, and are content to face the same fate and do the same duties, because fundamentally they all alike have the common purpose to serve the glorious flag of their common country. Now, that's all one sentence. It's a pretty meaty sentence. What I want to do is begin by discovering what essential material comes to us before the because near the end of the sentence. That's going to be my first proposition. So first I find the subject. What's the subject? The subject is all Americans, and that comes to us after that adverb clause, when the time of danger comes. All Americans. And then I ask, what is the subject doing? What's the verb? And I see that that's actually a compound structure. All Americans, Roosevelt is saying, do a couple of things. They stand together as men, as Americans, and are content to face the same fate and do the same duties. That's the essential material, and so I underline that. The other information that comes to me in the paragraph is beautiful and important, but it all adds on information to this essential grammatical core, the subject and the verb. All Americans stand together and are content to face the same fate and do the same duties. Now, material comes to me after the because, and I know that that makes up my next proposition. Fundamentally, they are all alike and have the common purpose to serve the glorious flag of their common country. So there I look for my subject. They all alike have the common purpose, to serve the glorious flag of their common country. Not really much of that is disposable material, and so I underline the whole thing. And what I get is this combination. Proposition 1, all Americans stand together and are content to face the same fate and do the same duties. And fundamentally, they all alike have the common purpose to serve the glorious flag of their common country. And this is then, in the technical sense, a simple argument. I put 1 at the bottom and 2 at the top. The challenge is not so much figuring out how the propositions relate. The challenge of this lesson, of this week, is finding out what's the essential argument. Of course, This is an activity that demands discernment, and not every answer is going to look the same. The goal is to think about subject and predicate, subject and verb, what's essential going on here, what kinds of modifiers might I leave out for a separate task of reading comprehension. So in sum, the question to ask is, where in this longer passage is the essential argument? And then the task is, only underline the essential. This week in the quiz, we're going to be mapping some arguments in real prose.